So, Persona. I love the Persona series. From its engaging stories, gripping characters, sleek gameplay, and like many fans, I'm excited to see what comes of the series in Persona 6. I mean, it's been nearly 10 years since the release of Persona 5. Surely it's coming soon. So, Persona 4 Revival, the most leaked game ever, was announced recently, and through various interviews, we learned that we really ain't getting Persona 6 for a good while, so no better time to conceptualize Persona 6. This is like my 5th take on the script, man. I'm just doing this now. Here's a little introduction to the Persona series for those who don't know. Persona is a series where you play through a high schooler by day, demon hunter by night type story, where urban legends and Jungian psychology mix with classical mythology and folklore, with the dungeon crawling half following a Pokemon-esque structure of collecting personas to wield in battle and fusing them to make more powerful personas. But the second half of the game is the calendar system. This is the real meat and potatoes of the game. Each in-game day has 2 time slots, which you can use to buy items, earn money, train your stats, and most importantly, improve your bonds with other characters, which provide a variety of benefits. Long story short, you and your friends, after a year of fighting your literal demons, kill God with the power of friendship, and the game ends. I've made a short and concise list of 10 ideas for Persona 6. This isn't a wish list, as all these points kind of contribute to the same idea. Think of them as 10 parts of a single whole, 10 slices of the same pizza. I've just formatted it like this so I can really dig in my teeth into each thing in their own individual sections. Alright, here we go. Number 1, a theme of change. If each Persona game is kind of defined by like a one-word descriptor, I want Persona 6 to be the change game. See, the series kind of needs a shakeup in its formula. Ever since Persona 3, it's been very, very samey in how the gameplay structure and story structure even works. If you're just looking at this from the outside, knowing that the series is on 5, the structure from 3 doesn't seem that old. But I think you need to know that this is coming up on 9 games ago now that we've been stuck with this structure. And yes, there's been differences for each one, but it's been very much the same game 9 times, with a different story and characters. So my main idea going into this, both for the story and gameplay, is a theme of change. With the gameplay direction, I want to include change even just for the sake of change, specifically to create that kind of reaction-based unease that comes with change being forced upon you. And to make this more interesting, you can have the bosses be characters that are stuck in the past and can't handle the change being forced upon them, as a way for the players to actively relate with the villains through the fact that you are going through the same thing, most likely. Number 2, the protagonist. Protagonists are usually more connected to being the plot hook of their game than being an actual character. Obviously, they have their own personalities, but they are more about moving the story along than being a part of the story. My idea for the protagonist in Persona 6 is to kind of change that a little bit. My idea is that you start the game as some victim of a traumatic head injury, and you have lost all of your memories from before said injury, and have no chance of getting them back. This allows us to do one really, really cool thing. It allows us to have characters who know the protagonist, but where the protagonist and the player don't know them back. We haven't really been able to do this before. For the very specific reason that the protagonist is the player, and thus if the protagonist knows things the player doesn't know, it gets kind of weird. But if the whole point is that the protagonist doesn't remember anything, then this is a perfect place to start off and allow us to have a really interesting dynamic journey with stories. We could even have the parents show up of the protagonist and explore that dynamic of parents who know the child who doesn't know them back. That seems really, really interesting. Number 3, more impactful ailments. I had a lot of idea for combat changes, but I think the one change I really want to see to really define Persona 6 is a more impactful ailment system. Ailments are really interesting in Persona, especially thematically, for the simple reason that average fights aren't long enough to really need ailments, and most bosses are immune to ailments. So I want to fix the lack of use of ailments with one simple change. Make it so ailments grant a 1 more. For those who don't know, when you hit a weakness or gain a critical hit in Persona, the character that did so gains an extra turn. This is called a 1 more. So if you land an ailment successfully with this new system, you would also gain a 1 more. allow you to do more dramatic actions, especially if technicals return, where matching an ailment with a specific magical attack knocks the enemy down. Number 4. Shuffle time improvements. I considered negotiations, but I think that system was a bit too tedious in Persona 5. But I really liked how in Persona 5 you could see the persona you wanted and go grab it. Well, shuffle time, it's kind of just like, ooh, what's it gonna be? I do want the shadows to be more like how they are in Persona 5, using the personas as the models. So, my main idea for this is to make it so that enemies you kill in an all-out attack, the big flashy finishing move where you have to knock all enemies down, show up as persona cards in shuffle time. If you do not kill a persona in an all-out attack, it is not guaranteed to show up as a card in shuffle time. But if you do, it is. This further incentivizes all-out attacks, which is a good thing, because all-out attacks are flashy and fun to use, and also just make combat way snappier. Number 5, aesthetics. So obviously, each Persona game has a very distinct color, and most people say Persona 6 will be green, and I kind of stand by that. Sure, why not? Especially if I'm running with the idea of a change theme in the story. Green works really well, because green generally does symbolize growth and change. My idea for the UI is that it could be in a more minimalist, geometric style. I'm showing some examples of that on screen, but a lot of empty space and simplistic geometric shapes, I think, in my opinion, could work really well with that memory loss protagonist idea, as a lot of empty space slowly being filled up by simplistic shapes kind of gives that vibe to me. And for music, I think something a bit more lo-fi or hip-hop in its style could work pretty well. First, because I think those musical styles just work really well for Persona already, but I think the looping and somewhat ambient elements of a lot of hip-hop and lo-fi especially work really well with the aforementioned memory lost protagonist. Number 6, dynamic social links and social stats. Right now, social links are a straight 1 to 10. You spend time with people and your relationship improves, slowly gaining bonuses as you go, maybe. The thing is, social links being so linear makes it so dialogue choices generally just end up being right choice, wrong choice. So instead, I had a little bit of an idea. Every couple of ranks in the social link, you will make a choice that could dramatically change your relationship with the person. Instead of it being what's the right choice, what's the wrong choice, the social link is more about what kind of relationship you want to have with the person, what specific dynamics you want to foster, and what part of the person do you want to learn more about. And one more idea for social stats, making them more dynamic just like social links. Currently, just like social links, they start at level 1 and eventually get to max level. Once they reach max level, there's no real interacting with them, and there isn't much of a trade-off, as you definitely have time to max out all of them if you're willing to focus on it just a little bit. So my idea is to instead have a percentage system of, say, 4 social stats, where each one starts at 25. And instead receiving different bonuses or access to different links if you have enough amount of each stat. Whenever you gain points in one stat, all 3 other stats go down. So it's more about making a build and speccing into specific paths than just slowly improving yourself. Life isn't really about just getting better, it's about making choices that change what you're better at. And I think, especially with the theme of change, that reflects really well and works really interesting as an important shakeup. Number 7, a living world. These are 2 simple things that have existed in previous games that I want them to be more prevalent here. First is party member schedules. In Persona 3, sometimes you wouldn't be able to have certain party members because they'd have a previous engagement. I love that. And I think it should come back. Imagine if a party member has like a club every Thursday that they have to go to. So if you want to use that party member, you can't use them on Thursdays. That's really, really cool, and it helps me make each character feel like they have more of a life outside of just being your party member. Which is something I think Persona 4 kind of suffered with a lot. The second thing I really want is weather. I liked Persona 5's weather system, where it somewhat impacted the other world, but I want it to be extremely impactful. I want the current weather of the world to be extremely important. I want a large amount of skills that connect to the weather. And I want weather to have large, impactful changes that affect how you play and battle. 8. More dynamic Navigator. This is an extremely simple change. In previous games, your Navigator is just kind of an addition to the party. They may have a resource to their system, but ultimately they just provide very useful abilities with next to no cost. They're generally just act as a mid-game power spike around the time you start reaching a large party size. My idea is that, for the most part, the Navigator works the exact same way, except you can make them better by equipping them to your party. Now, the Navigator can't fight, so you're only down to 3 people, but the Navigator will basically use their abilities nearly every turn, meaning you can make a genuinely interesting choice of whether or not you want to have a normal party of 4 people that is much more dynamic, or a smaller party that is noticeably stronger thanks to your Navigator. Number 9. More present villain. Persona villains are fantastic, but they all have one thing in common. They all show up really late into the game and focus a lot more on being a mysterious figure, or tie into some mystery. And while that really works, and I don't think Persona should get rid of its mystery-style storytelling, I would love a Far Cry style villain who is introduced to you right off the bat or very early on, and is just present all the time, sending messages to you while you're walking around, just harassing you constantly. I think that'd be really, really fun. A constant presence villain who is there throughout the most. It doesn't even need to be the main villain. It could just be a Team Rocket, but that doesn't even matter. I just want a villain in a Persona game who is a constant threat, kind of like Strega from Persona 3, but once again, a bit more present, a bit more important, a bit more consistent throughout the entire game. Number 10, a shorter game. Okay, this isn't a contentious one, but I think the number one thing stopping people from playing Persona games is their length. People see a 100+ hour adventure, and they say, nah, I'm good. Literally the main thing people say when I ask them if they want to play Persona games or try to get them into the series is, I don't know, it's kind of long. I'm never gonna finish it. Which is kind of valid. Yes, I think the length of these stories absolutely improves things, and a sense of the value would be lost or diminished if it was shorter. But it can be shorter. I think we all know that. I completely know that it would diminish things in terms of the pure emotional connection, but especially if the party was just smaller to 7 or 8 characters, it wouldn't be that big of a problem. Well, that's about all I really want to say, so